Some houses are never truly empty, even after the last light is turned off, even after everyone is asleep. Something still stirs. In the silence, in the shadows, it watches. It waits. This is the story of Kikimora, the spirit behind the walls. To outsiders, the house looked peaceful. A small cottage on the edge of a sleepy Russian village. Smoke in the chimney, a garden in the back. A home built on good soil. But to the family who lived there, it was different. At night, they heard footsteps, not heavy, but soft, delicate, almost like a child's. But they had no child. The mother would find her sewing threads tangled, the father's tools rearranged. Milk would spoil overnight, and no matter how often they cleaned, dust returned by morning. At first, they blamed each other. Then they heard the breathing, not loud, not angry, just breathing. From the empty attic, from beneath the floorboards, from behind the walls. Kikimora is not like a ghost. She is a house spirit, born of sorrows or summoned by curses. She can be helpful if treated with respect, but if she comes with malice, she brings decay. Legends say she looks like a frail old woman with stringy hair, long fingers and hollow eyes. She wears tattered rags and slips between cracks like smoke. She waves misfortune like thread, knotting it into your daily lives until everything falls apart. One tale tells of a young wife named Katya. She mocked the stories, called Kikimora is just an old wife's tale. One night, she left a bowl of salt in the windowsill. A village superstition meant to keep spirits out. She laughed and dumped it out the next morning. That night, she awoke to the sound of a baby crying. She rushed to the cradle and saw her child perfectly still, not crying, not even blinking. The sound of crying was coming from under the bed. They say she never touched salt again. And the cradle, it rocked on its own for weeks. Kikimora doesn't want your soul. She wants your peace, your sanity. She'll whisper your name as you drift to sleep. She'll sit at the foot of your bed and braid your hair while you dream. She'll turn your comfort into discomfort slowly, until your home no longer feels like your own. They say if you suspect Kikimora lives in your house, you must leave out bread and speak kindly. Never shout, never curse, and whatever you do, never sleep with your back to the door, because she comes when you're most vulnerable, not to kill, but to stay. This was the tale of Kikimora, the spirit behind the silence. Do you believe your house is ever truly empty? Have you heard footsteps when no one was there? water remembers every stone skipped, every whispered shared at its edge, and every soul lost beneath its surface. And sometimes it gives those souls back, but not as they were. This is the tale of Rusalka, the Drowned Maiden. In a quiet village near the river bank, people still warn their children, never wander near the water at night. Not because of animals, not because of drowning, but because of her. They say she appears only under moonlight, a pale woman with long tangled hair, her dress soaked and clinging, her skin as cold and white as bone, and her eyes always full of sorrow, until you try to live. Then they change, because Rusalka doesn't want to be alone. Rusalki were once women, young, beautiful, and betrayed. Some drowned by lovers, others took their own lives from heartbreak or shame, but no one were buried properly. And that's the key. A woman who dies in sorrow and isn't laid to rest doesn't stay dead. Instead, she becomes a Rusalka, a restless spirit, cursed to haunt the waters where she died forever. They say Luca, a traveler, once laughed at the villagers' tales. He was brave, curious, and he loved to fish alone at night. One full moon, he wandered deeper into the reeds than ever before. That's when he saw her, standing ankle deep in the water, hair floating, singing a melody too sweet to resist. She was beautiful and crying. He stepped closer, asked if she was hurt. She smiled and whispered, "Stay." But Luca noticed something. Her feet didn't ripple in the water, and her reflection wasn't there. He ran. The villagers found him the next morning, sitting at the water's edge, alive, but not speaking. His hair had turned white. The Rusalka appears gentle, innocent, but don't be fooled. She calls to lonely men, sings to lost travelers, waits in still waters with arms outstretched. But once you get too close, her hands shoot out, ice cold and unforgiving, and pulls you under. No splashes, no screams, just silence. Some say she drowns you out of jealousy. Others say it's revenge. But the truth? She just doesn't want to be alone in the dark anymore. You'll know she's near when the wind stops, when the frogs go quiet, when the waters move but nothing touches it. And if you ever hear singing while walking near a lake or river, don't look, don't stop, because once you see her face, she never lets you go. That was the story of Rusalka, the Drowned Maiden of Slavic legends. There are lakes where the waters run deep, so deep that lights never touch the bottom, so old that no one remembers what was buried there. But in one such lake, something woke up. This is the legend of the Brosno Dragon. the ancient terror beneath the surface. Lake Brosno sits quietly in western Russia. To tourists, it's peaceful. To locals, it's cursed. They call it the Russian Loch Ness, but this is no playful myth. This is a monster, with jaws wide enough to swallow a boat, scales as hard as armor, and a presence that turns water black. They say it rises only when it's hungry, and when it does, nothing escapes. The first tale dates back to 13th century. A Mongol army tried to cross Lake Brosno, but their horses began to panic. Then something enormous breached the surface. The soldiers were never seen again. Over centuries, fishermen vanished, boats overturned, and ripples appeared in still water when there was no wind. The villagers refused to fish near the center of the lake, and children were warned, "Don't throw stones into Brosno, you might wake it." In 1984, a group of divers came to explore the lake. They were searching for ancient relics, old war planes, sunken weapons. They never expected what they found. 30 meters below the surface, the sonar picked up movement, large, alive, and fast. They reported something moving under the equipment, something that brushed against their diving cage and then vanished into the depths. One diver refused to go back under. The others never spoke about it again. The Brosno Dragon is said to be massive. Some describe it as serpent-like, with a crocodile snout. Others say it has wings and breathes out a sulfuric fog when disturbed. Bones of strange animals have been found near the shores. Some believe it's a prehistoric creature, something left behind. Others say it's a shapeshifter, a cursed being. But all agree on one thing: it's not natural. Even today, the lake had dead zones, places where fish won't swim, where birds don't land, where compasses stop working, and the water pulses like it's breathing. Boaters claim to see dark shadows beneath them, longer than their boats, moving silently just beneath the surface, and then nothing. The Brosno Dragon doesn't come often, but when it does, something always disappears. A boat, a voice, a ripple. If you ever stand at the edge of Lake Brosno and the water seems too still, don't throw a rock, don't call out, just leave. Because once the surface breaks, it's already too late. The sea gives life, but it also keeps secrets. Dark things float beneath the surface, hidden in the tide, waiting in silence. One of them is Meduza, not the Greek gorgon with snakes for hair, but something far more subtle and far more cruel. This is the story of Meduza, the deceptive sea monster. Along the misty shores of the Barnett Sea, fishermen tell tales of a creature that doesn't need to chase its prey. It waits, it sings, and you come to her. They call it Meduza, not for its face, but for what it does to yours. She doesn't attack with claws or teeth. She attacks with beauty. Her song pulls sailors from the deck. Her eyes draw swimmers deeper. And her touch turns the living into stones. Unlike the Greek Medusa, this one isn't bound to a myth. She's ancient Slavic sea lore, whispered between generations. Some say she was once a drowned woman, betrayed by a lover and cursed by the sea gods. Others say she was never human at all, born from sea foam and storms, a siren with the face of a goddess and the soul of a predator. But all versions agree on one thing. She doesn't kill you out of rage. She does it because it's beautiful. There's a story about a young sailor named Victor. He saw her one dawn, standing knee-deep in the water, her back turned. He thought she was drowning, ran into the sea to help her. The moment he touched her shoulders, she turned around. What he saw, no one knows, but his scream echoed across the bay. By the time others reached him, he was on the shore, eyes wide open, body stiff, frozen in place, not dead, not alive, just still. Witnesses describe her differently. Some say she has flowing black hair and a face that glows like moonlight. Others say her lower half is not legs, but wriggling tendrils like jellyfish. Her skin is pale and slick, her eyes endless, deep. Looking into them feels like looking into the ocean itself. Calm on the surface, but hiding unimaginable depths. And her voice, it's not a sound, it's a feeling. Like a memory you never had, or a dream that wants to pull you back in. The worst part? You don't even feel afraid. You feel safe, warm, like she understands you. Right before she pulls you under. Right before your lungs fill with seawater, right before you become part of the sea forever. And maybe that's our goal, to build a kingdom beneath the waves, of stone-faced victims, of those who thought they were safe. They say Meduza still haunts the cold waters. She drifts with the tide, waits near rocks and shipwrecks. And if you ever see a woman standing in the water, alone, whispering your name, don't look at her, don't answer, just run. Because if she sees you, you've already become a memory. That was the tale of Meduza, the deceptive spirit of the sea. Have you ever heard something in the wind or seen someone in the water that shouldn't be there? Send your strange encounters or terrifying legends to thelorecamp@gmail.com and it might be featured in a future story. Until then, stay off the rocks, avoid the fogs, and if the sea calls your name, don't answer.